All right. Well, good afternoon, and thanks for tuning in to today's daily support call. I'm super excited to have Dr. Ivan Misner here with us. He is the founder of BNI. If you're not familiar with BNI, BNI is Business Networking International. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, referral networking organization in the world with over 220,000 members worldwide. It's been around for nearly, is it over 40 years now, Dr. Ivan?
35 years. And Marcus, please call me Ivan.
Call him Ivan. Great. So today we're really privileged. We have the opportunity to get insights from someone that is helping small businesses around the world for 35 years, obviously has a great track record, is seeing a lot of pivots and shifts going on right now. Ivan, what would you consider to be the biggest point right now for small business owners?
Well, I think it's about understanding networking in the new normal, because we're all pretty much working from home. And because of this pandemic, the world's a really crazy place to live in right now. And most of us are quarantined or confined to quarters. But that doesn't mean you can't get things done. The worst thing we can do right now, the worst thing we can do is stop connecting with people. We need to continue it now more than ever. We just need to do it differently. People don't make good decisions based on fear. There's plenty of that going all around the world. Don't succumb to it. I don't know about you, but challenges like this give me an absolute singularity of focus. In the middle of a serious challenge, it's hard sometimes to see through the fog that surrounds our thoughts. But there are opportunities, and to see these opportunities, you need to have a singular focus on executing a plan and not getting distracted by all the noise. And God, stop watching the news, for hours at a time. It'll just make things worse for you. In difficult times, what I've seen is one of two things generally happen to groups of people. They either become frozen in fear, or less people, but some, become focused on solutions. Fear versus focus. We can't change the things that are going on around us, but we can change how we respond to it. And now is not the time to stop networking. It's just the time to do it differently for a while. Now, keep doing what you need to do to stay healthy. That's important. Set aside your fear and focus on what you can do right now to work your way through this really difficult situation. So if you're like many people, you probably have some free time on your hands. Use it effectively. Activate your network. Reach out to your personal network and see how they're doing. Zoom, Skype, GoToMeeting. Find out if there's, this is important, do one-to-ones on Zoom, Skype, GoToMeeting. Do group discussions like this. But when you're doing those one-to-ones, find out if there's anything you can do for someone. Recently, I heard John Maxwell say, you can't help everybody, but you can help somebody. Use this time to help somebody. Even if it's moral support, help somebody. And don't forget, it's okay to ask for help also. The people in your personal network, they're your colleagues. They should mostly be people that you're at credibility with, and it's okay to share your needs with them. Also, just a couple more things, then I want to open it up. This is a great time to pour into yourself. Work on the business plan you intend to execute when this is over. Read books that'll stimulate and motivate you to do the things you need to do when this is all done. Spend time learning from amazing experts online. Now is not the time to ignore your network. Now is the time to expand and deepen your network and pour into yourself. We'll get through this. We'll get through this. May not be easy, but you'll come out stronger and you'll be light years ahead of your competition if you use the time to invest in yourself, invest in your network, and create a plan that you'll execute when we're all out of this lockdown. Today, people need their network more than ever. You're going to have a business tomorrow because of the actions you take today. So that's my opening salvo on what we should do. And I'd love to open it up and talk about whatever you want, Marcus. And I'm happy to take questions.
No, of course. I mean, there's only about 4 hours of stuff there to unpack in what you just said. So thanks for that. You've filled the entire hour sufficiently. There's so many things I love there. We've got some of my own clients in here as well as some BNI members. Everyone that is here, please note that, either just ask something in the chat or just raise your hand or visually, or just if you're not muting yourself, just unmute and ask a question to either myself or to Ivan. I mean, this is what it's about. It's not just
the only dumb
watching us.
question is the unasked question. So
Right. And to his point, I absolutely love the first point I want to unpack with you is something I've been telling people is ask, ask, ask. I mean, for those of us that already have existing clients, yeah, people are buying, people are doing business. I've said it before this pandemic occurred. It applies even more now. Talk to your existing network. See how you can serve them. How can you support the clients you have, or even past clients who know you and for whatever reason aren't with you anymore? Reach out to them because they already know you, like you, and trust you. So they're going to help you.
Can I give you a story, Marcus, on exactly what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Reach out to them. So I have a friend, and he told me this story. He lived in New Orleans during Katrina. And of course, it was total wipeout. All business was completely wiped out for months, and or virtually all business for months. And he even had to, he lived in Atlanta. He had to move to Atlanta because his house was completely underwater. And so he drove once a week down, and that was, I think it's like a 3-hour drive, 4-hour drive from Atlanta to New Orleans. He drove once a week down to meet with the people in his network. They were BNI members, to meet with them. And he said, look, he was a business coach. He said, it's all free. Let me help you. Let me help coach you through this disaster that we're all going through. And he got online, this was years ago, so that Skype wasn't quite so good as it is now, but he'd get on the phone and he drove down once a week, his own dime, wasn't making anything. And he poured into people. Now, why would anyone do that? I'll tell you why. Because when everything settled down and people started, having their businesses back up, something very specific happened to him. He had an opportunity to get a partnership in a business with coaching, but he had to have a certain level of coaching clients, a certain number in order to qualify. And so what do you think he did? Now, this was maybe 9-10 months after Katrina. What do you think he did? He reached out to all those people that he poured into during that period of time. And he said, guys, I have an opportunity. It's one of the biggest opportunities in my life. This is what it is. Could you refer me to people? Because I need to hit these numbers in order to qualify. Guess what they did? They poured into him. 10 months later, they poured into him. He qualified. He became a partner in the business. And it's because he was willing to help other people during a really difficult time. So I love that idea, Marcus. I think it's really important.
No, and I agree. And I mean, now, of course, how you go about doing things, I mean, all of our emails right now are being bombarded with fear mongering and what have you. So people want to get away from being overwhelmed by the news. They want to get away from their own fears. They want a distraction. And here's the best part. As a marketing opportunity, you have a captive audience. Everybody is in this self-isolation phase. So they're looking for something. They're looking for a free course or a free offer. They're looking for a way to be educated and elevated so that there's a ray of light in the midst of all this darkness that is surrounding us. So yeah, I think that's incredibly powerful. One thing I'd actually like to talk about too, it's one of the favorite quotes I've been using recently, and it basically says, the old ways will not open new doors, right? Yeah. And I know there's two schools of thoughts when it comes to fear that you were talking about earlier. And some people's fear is that they are thinking this is something temporary, that we can go back to how things were. Whereas if we look historically at events of this scale, there really is no going back. It's a fundamental shift to what is going to come. And we don't know yet what that's going to look like or to what degree that's going to be, but we do know that there's been a fundamental change in the way things are going to move forward. And this just reinforces what you and I were talking about earlier, is the amount of opportunity there is right now to test everything. Some of my own clients are on the call, and something that we iterate as an affirmation is success happens daily. So today, get out there today, do something as a group, like you were saying, reach out and set what your measurements are going to be. Like, what is it you want to happen? And then measure whether it happened or not and to what degree it happened. And if you achieve your objective, fantastic. If you don't, then do something else. But all the data that we had before about things that worked in marketing, the principles still apply, but the data is all askew now because there is this fundamental shift going forward. So what I wanted to ask you, Ivan, again, I know you're very in touch with BNI all over the world. I mean, it's your baby forever. What have you seen to be some of the major shifts in the approach of the organization going forward?
Yeah. So that's a great question, and I want to touch upon the change. We're going through monumental change, but I do believe things will get. I don't want to say get back to normal. There will always be the shift, but I mean, you think back to 2008, the Great Recession, and everyone said, "People, it'll never be the same. Real estate will never be the same. The stock market will never recover." I mean, I had someone say to me, "The stock market will never recover."
Wow. Okay.
Well, they were kind of wrong. You know, it recovered, and right now the stock market's dropping like a rock, although it's been up for the last 2 days.
Yeah.
It's going to get worse, I think. It'll recover. It'll recover. You know, the sky's falling right now. It's not going to fall forever. So things will get back to normal, but it will be a new normal. It'll be a different normal. There will be differences. This kind of technology is going to be a lot more integrated into business, I think. So your question was, what has BNI done? You know, I got a CEO in BNI who, I swear that guy was looking around a corner. I don't know how he saw what he saw, but he talked to me in January about the need to flip BNI on an interim basis. We are the world's largest face-to-face networking organization. We have 9,500 groups in more than 70 countries. So that means we have 9,500 meetings face-to-face every week. That's a disaster for something like the COVID virus.
Right.
In January, he said, we need to start doing some online meetings. Like, okay. And so we had flipped in China completely to online in January. We flipped completely online in Italy in February. By the end of February, we had flipped into at least a half a dozen countries. And by late February, early March, we were flipping in the United States. Now, globally, we have either 9,500 chapters that aren't meeting this week and are transitioning, or we have hundreds that aren't meeting and transitioning. But basically, we have, by next week, 9,500 chapters meeting online. The same meeting, same program, same structure, but just like this. Everybody can see each other. There's one speaker. We have the same agenda. So we've changed the platform, but applied the same system. And we did it like overnight. It's been amazing.
Well, I love how you say overnight, but it's been, 35 years of iterating, right? And
yeah, but I mean, flipping to online.
No, absolutely. But to the other half of the equation that we were just talking about, yes, absolutely new tools, but same system, which means you know what you're going to be measuring for the varying degrees of success as it's gone online to see what's working, what's not. And as always, iterate and tailor it so it continues to become better and better. That's what I love about BNI, and that's what makes it such a fantastic system. I do like how you did correct me on some wording earlier. So let's not talk about the sky is falling norm, but the word I actually started using yesterday, and I still need to be mindful of it, is you're absolutely correct. Things will normalize.
Yeah.
That's the word I like to use. Things will normalize. It won't be exactly the same, but it will normalize to whatever the new norm is.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. It's someone, I heard it. Yes, actually, it was with Colin Sprake. I was on a call with him yesterday as one of my business mentors. And
I know Colin well.
Yeah, well, that's yeah, he did mention that, so I'm supposed to say hello. So hello.
Say hi to Colin.
I will. But yeah, so he mentioned that word yesterday, and it just really resonated because it sounded so true. Things will normalize and stabilize, and we'll move forward together. So yeah, I mean, what I'd like to do again, guys, this isn't just to listen to Ivan and I have a wonderful discussion. I mean, I love that we're here and being able to chat, but throw up your hand. Let's get practical. Like, what are some things today that you are struggling with? What are some things that you would like direction on right now? You've got one of the most brilliant minds in business in the room with you. Take
Very
advantage.
generous.
Ask.
Thanks. I saw Aaron raise his hand.
Did
I'm
Aaron raise his hand?
Ivan, Aaron with APG Plumbing Inc. I've just incorporated, and I just want to say thank you for BNI. I met Marcus just prior to joining a newer BNI chapter, and it changed everything. In 1 year, I put over 10,000 minutes on BNI University.
Oh, wow. You the man. You the man. I'm impressed.
I'm very familiar with your voice and listen to your stuff, and every single podcast, everything. I could take some little tidbit from it and I'd apply it to my personal life, my professional life. But a lot of it to my personal life right now with my children going through all of this. We've been focusing on Giver's Gain.
Oh, nice.
So
Giver's Gain is our
principal
core value, for those of you who don't know. It's about helping other people and they'll help you.
Well, that's thank you so much. You just settled a debate with me, with many of the members in the room from my BNI chapter. Yeah, a while back, I guess it was last year, I was actually in GTI BNI Plus. I was the Diamond Growth Specialist. So I was going around to various chapters implementing the 8-week Diamond Growth Program. And one of those little things that often bothered me, because we're talking about the power of words here, back to normalize and all that. But when people would talk about Giver's Gain, they would ask for a definition. And so many times the idea of Giver's Gain is interpreted as, if I give business to my group will give business to me. And I would correct them, because you've just said it. It's not about that. It's about, if I help those around me, then I will receive help down the road. Not even necessarily from them, but it's the whole idea of, yeah, you give, and then other people will help. And I think that's a fundamental difference than just thinking about it from strictly a revenue purpose.
Agreed.
Cool. So anybody else in the room would like to, ask some questions, say hello?
There's something on the chat. I don't know if there's a chat there, Marcus.
It just says, "Hey, Marcus."
Oh, okay.
So, hey, iPhone, because I don't even have a name. It just says iPhone. So there we go. So apparently it's such an important conversation today that the smartphones are getting involved. So I like that. Oh, it's
Karen from Macintosh. Karen Macintosh.
Oh, Karen from Macintosh. There you go. So that works out.
Karen,
hey, Karen.
Macintosh.
So yeah, okay. So let's continue on. So something else I wanted to talk about is, we're talking about the types of actions that you can take. And what I've been doing for our clients is we've implemented a daily status call for free. Just every morning we get together, we go through some personal challenges they may be facing, and then we make some clear action items for the day that they need to take action on. And one of the reasons we're doing this daily is the concept of a business rhythm. That's what we call it. To expand on that for you and for those that aren't familiar with that term, it's the whole approach of daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, fairly standard stuff back from the Rockefeller habits type of approach, right? So we are forcing it daily because really we're condensing the timeline for people, because right now, like you said, there's not the luxury of figuring things out over the next week or next month or next quarter. It's what can you do today to transition, to pivot, to stay relevant, to be an industry leader, to serve the people in your network. What types of things, like, give us an example. What are you working on today after this call?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm doing this. And I have become, for BNI, I'm sort of the Colonel Sanders of BNI. So I'm the spokesperson for the organization. I'm no longer in the day-to-day management of the business. I'm involved strategically. I'm on the board. But my role is really to do this. And so I'm actually busier now than ever, because I'm doing a lot of webinars. I'm doing a lot of interviews. And I'm really trying to talk to people about how to deal with a life of change right now. And, one of the things I'm getting certainly in BNI is you get some of the people who've been in BNI for many, many, many years. This is an analog for people outside of BNI too, but this is an example that they don't want to change. That, we have some people who've never used Zoom and they don't want to do it. And so I had somebody just in the previous webinar I did about an hour ago say, what do you do with these people that, they just say, I don't want to go online. I don't want to do Zoom. I say, tell them this. Tell them Ivan said, Ivan hates change. It's true. I hate change. It's just the way I'm wired. The thing I hate more is failure. So you might as well embrace change or you're going to fail. Given those options, it's pretty clear to me. And what I say to people, to say to these people with gray hair like me who aren't willing to make the change, hey, it's your choice. I can't make it for you. You can change along with us, or you're likely to have a lot of challenges down the road. You make the choice. And I've found that people that kind of approach it that way, they don't go, yay, I'm ready to change. No, they'll go, all right, I get it. And, you know, you bring them along. So this is the kind of message that I'm trying to get out to the public and to BNI members, that we'll get through this. There's going to be some changes. Stay focused. Keep doing what you do. Do it well. Help others. I just shared years ago. I did a conference where I passed out all these buttons. We had a big problem, and I don't have one of the buttons, but I have a photograph of all the buttons. It says Eggbach.
Okay.
Eggbach. Everybody put them on. Everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Everything's gonna be okay. If you stay healthy, you'll get through this. Everything's gonna be okay. It's gonna be tough for a while, but we'll get back to it. We'll get back to it. That normalizing will come back.
Normalizing. Yeah, I love that word. And you're right. I mean, and a lot of the challenges that we've been serving others with, again, given what our expertise and experience is establishing daily routines, effective daily routines for, like you said, for health. You know, making sure they're getting some exercise, making sure that they're staying mentally healthy. Like, I don't even like the term self-isolation, because isolation, like you said, it implies that we're alone, and alone is a whole different mind state.
Right.
So instead, I'm calling it self-motivation, right?
I like it. That's good. Marcus, I might borrow that. That's good.
You could have that. Yeah, feel free. Because again, it's that opportunity. I love how people are always like, oh, when I have the time, I'll do this for my business. When I have time, I'll get caught up on this. Well, guess what? Now you have all that time.
Tons of time.
So be self-motivated and let's really push forward and make the most use of that. So what I'm going to invite people to do right now, so I know not everyone has wanted to raise their hands, and I respect that, I get that. But what I'd like you to do, it's a little bit of a challenge as Ivan and I continue to talk, is in the chat window, I want you to type out what you're doing today to push yourself forward. And that can be whether, you know, you're doing some meditation for yourself, some yoga, whether you're doing some physical exercise, whether you're going to start calling your clients because you're realizing, holy smokes, yeah, I need to reach out to my existing client base. If you're looking around the room and seeing many familiar faces that you know, going, wow, I haven't seen some of these people in a bit. I should catch up with them. Just write down what you're going to take action on today. Because Ivan mentioned that earlier for those that are just joining us. Ideas, everybody has tons of ideas. It's the people that take action on the ideas that win, right? Yeah. So you have an opportunity to win right now.
You know, Marcus, I'm a real believer in the law of attraction. A big believer in the law of attraction. But the word attraction has the word action as part of it. Action is part of the word attraction. And so you can have all the attraction you want. If you don't take action, it's not going to do you any good. And no, so you can have this attraction, and man, I believe in it. But then you got to take action to make it happen. You can't just, unlike the movie The Secret, where they said, well, the genie, and the genie does it for you. No, that's not true. You got to take action.
Right. See, you and I, okay, now I'm going to have to steal that from you. So I think that's, or borrow that
from
you. Because, yeah.
Now, here's a bit of trivia that you didn't know, Marcus. I was filmed for the movie The Law of Attraction. I mean, The Secret.
Oh, really? For the original or the sequel?
The original, The Secret. I ended up on the cutting room floor because what Rhonda Byrne really wanted to do with that movie, and I get it, was she really wanted to implant in people's brains the power of the law of attraction. And she really wasn't looking for, but you got to take action. So that's not what she was looking for. And I was all about, you got to take action. And so it didn't fit her story, which I get. It was kind of unfortunate, but it was a great movie, and I recommend it to people.
Well, see, now this is why you and I are going to get along, because yeah, I'm a very 3-step person as well. It's set your intention, do the work, see the results. Not, set your intention, see the results. So we're very much aligned there. But I like your action line. It's, as a funny aside, I actually switched it all together because of how fundamentally opposed I was to people not wanting to take action, because that's not how law of attraction works. So I don't know if you've ever, you've probably met or read MJ DeMarco, any of his stuff, Millionaire Fastlane. And he has a great philosophy, which I adhere to. It's called the law of affection, right? If you want to make $1 million, affect 1 million lives. Right? And to affect 1 million lives, you're going to have to take some type of action. So yeah, we're very much agreed there. So what are we getting here? So we're getting some things. So from Aaron, so Aaron's saying he's going to let his clients know that he's available to talk to them for whatever reason. Aaron was the plumber that shared earlier. So whether it's to walk them through a simple repair or to talk about life in general. Yeah, I mean, that's just it. And this goes back to the whole idea. I'd be curious to get your opinion on this as well, Ivan. Again, being in BNI, being privileged to do some of the diamond growth stuff at a regional level, I would work with many of the B2C chapters, and then I would come across these somewhat elitist B2B chapters. And at the end of the day, one of the things I would break them down on is that there's no such thing. There's only P2P businesses, people to people. Right? Yeah. People buy from people. So Aaron, I love what you're saying there, because we're going to reach out to each other and serve each other as businesses, but first and foremost, let's serve each other as human beings. I mean, that's what Ivan's doing here. I mean, he's charging me $50,000 a minute to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Of course not. Of course he's not.
No, I'm not.
No, he's not. And I'll be very clear on that. That was a joke. He's here because he wants to serve people. Is it only BNI members in the room? No, I asked if he came because we need to serve each other. And the funny thing is, I don't think you're doing this, Ivan, because of what's going on in the world right now. I'm pretty sure you would do this anytime someone would ask.
I do it all the time. This is what I do.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's about giving, it's about serving. So I'm not seeing too much out. I see Janot agreeing. It's about giving. What else have we got here? So regularly reaching out to clients, building webinars for people. So, to ask questions about their finances. Awesome. A webinar for teaching kids about money launching next week. Okay, that's awesome. Scheduled day of workout, webinars, meals, and courses. So every day is planned out. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this is important too. I want to talk about those daily routines. First of all, if you have a link to what that webinar for kids is going to be, teaching them money, feel free to post that, because I think everyone that does have children here or knows people that have children, I mean, who do you know that has a child in their life that would like to learn more about money, right? So
there's a couple of books I'd recommend was it Janelle who's doing this, I think?
Yeah.
There's a couple of, Janelle. Yeah.
Hi, Ivan.
Hi. Nice. You're doing this webinar?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a couple of books I recommend that you take a look at. This one isn't particularly for kids. Neither of them are particularly for kids, but you can adjust them. One is The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist. But the other one that I think is really interesting, and I'm reading it right now, it's upstairs. It's called Happy Money by Ken Honda. Really good book. I know both of them well. Ken in particular is a good friend. And Happy Money, when he first told me the concept, I thought, seriously, Ken? Because he said money's happy or it's unhappy. And I'm like, oh, Ken, money is paper and cotton with some ink. It's not happy, it's inanimate. And he said, no, it can be happy or unhappy. And I'm like, okay, explain that. And so he said, I was with my wife, and he said, think of a time where you spent money and it wasn't on yourself. It can be on yourself, but think of a time when you spent money, it wasn't really on yourself, that just brought you great joy. My wife and I have been married 31 years.
Congratulations.
We came up with the same day. We both said, oh, it's got to be the day we did, boom. And we're like, okay. He said, money can be happy or it can be unhappy, and it's the way it is given and received. Now he's from Japan, so it's very spiritual, not religious spiritual, but emotionally spiritual. And I highly recommend the book, Happy Money by Ken Honda.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for the recommendation.
Yeah, my pleasure. And by the way, Karen, thanks. I appreciate your comment. I love positivity. Thanks.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, actually, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Colin, again, it's a big thing for him that he's instilled in me as well, is that events are simply events. And again, for some of my clients in the room, one of the fun challenges I like to give people, Ivan, is I can say with 100% confidence that you have never been upset about anything that has ever happened to you in your life. And I challenge people to think about that. Tell me one thing that has ever happened to you that has been upsetting, that has upset you. And people look at me quizzically and they come up with all these things. And then I simply say, no, the event was the event, but the meaning that you gave it is what determined your response to it, like we were talking about earlier. And that's exactly what's going on with the money example, which is perfect. The giving and receiving of money, the energy you put around it is very important. And the same thing of what's going on now. Looking at this as opportunity, or looking at this as, the sky is falling, is really going to determine your next steps.
Yeah.
So we got another one here, and I actually love this one too. So this one is actually from Heather. So thank you, Heather. Going for a walk with the kids this afternoon, online networking this evening, working on details for her next online party and a social media schedule for April. Brilliant. She actually did. This was awesome. And I've been doing a lot of these types of meetings too recently, but on the weekend, she hosted a virtual St. Patrick's Day party, right? How cool is that? And my wife and I were sitting on the couch, counting down the minutes to 8 o'clock, woke up at about 1 a.m. in the morning on the couch because we'd fallen asleep through the whole thing. So I felt bad about that, but Heather laughed at it. But what I really like in here as well is going for a walk with the kids this afternoon. See, a lot of people forget, at this point, we don't have martial law in Canada. We have self-isolation and social distancing, which really is just physical distancing. Again, words are so powerful. We're being very social with each other now without any risk to anybody. So don't socially distance yourself from people, physically distance yourself from people.
Right.
But you can still go out. Get a breath of fresh air, get away from the staleness and the sameness. Don't allow cabin fever to set in, just make sure that you're being respectful of the space around others. Make sure you're educating yourself on the fact that this is an airborne virus that can stay, I can't remember the radius offhand, but it's out there, but it's 9 hours it can stay in the air. So be very careful with things like that. But yeah, don't feel like you have to be trapped in the house. Feel that the house is your safe zone. And that's a very different approach, I think. Are you in self-isolation where you are, Ivan?
Yeah, Austin is shut down except for emergency businesses, or that's not the term.
Essential
businesses. Yeah,
yes,
thank you.
Yes, and again,
but it's amazing how many businesses are considered essential.
Well, we're laughing at that here. When you see the list going around on Facebook and stuff, it's like
the UPS store is essential. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Well, now that's interesting. So let's go that way if you want, because again, I promised that this would be very personal and very in depth, and that's something that's come up a lot. People making jokes about it. But from a governmental point of view, to me, it makes sense because you've got, a people, whether you're in the States, whether you're in Canada, wherever you are in the world, you've got people that are on the verge of panic, and having beer stores and alcohol stores open is a great way to placate them.
Yes,
Right?
alcohol store is essential.
Right? You keep them numb, you keep them at home, because then it's one less thing you have to deal with on scale. Because and this is going to sound cold, cold, so please don't think of it that way. Think of it objectively. Another phrase I like to use, for myself included, is none of us are as dumb as all of us. And I think that's why, because the mob mentality, the more of us buy into something, the greater the potential threat is, because when the emotions get high, the intelligence gets low. Right. So I think having the booze stores open is definitely a good idea.
And I do too. And hey, I'm good to go. I've got a wine cellar that'll hold 1,600 bottles. So
okay. You're good for the long haul, right?
I'm good for the long haul.
Party at Ivan's.
Yeah, that's not really practicing the physical distancing, though, is it?
Well, that's true. Aaron had a question.
Yeah, well, just going back to that, there was a line from think it's Men in Black.
Yeah.
A person is smart, people are dumb, or people are stupid. So that
Yeah,
mob
it's the
mentality.
same kind of idea. Like, yeah, that mob mentality. I mean, look at what happened with the whole toilet paper hoarding. So you hit me earlier with the fact that I didn't know that trivia bit that you were originally in The Secret. Do you know where the hysteria came, Ivan, from the whole toilet paper hoarding?
I mean, I think it was, I don't know where it came from, but, people were buying extra food and, necessary supplies. So that just was obviously a reasonably necessary supply. So it came from, I don't know. It just,
Right.
I don't know
Well,
exactly
so
where it came
trivia,
from.
I actually do know the answer to this.
Oh, where'd it come from?
Yeah, so this goes to reinforce some earlier points we've talked about, the power of the news, the power of social media. And when this started to break out in China, China responded quickly, and being of a different political model than we are, they were able to lock down their citizens pretty fast. And someone from just outside of Wuhan shared on social media, we're now in lockdown and I'm low on toilet paper.
Okay, and it came from that?
That's how it started. So then next thing you know, the news media is like, China running low on toilet paper. And then suddenly everyone else in North America is like, oh, I need to get all the toilet paper. That's how these things happen. It's like broken telephone in the nth degree. Just a little interesting aside, just to follow that trail back. But you got to be careful, especially like in regular times, you have to be careful, but especially now, be careful what goes in. Right? Your brain is so powerful. Like, what goes in there is what's actually going to come out.
And that's why I'm just not watching the news except for once a day for maybe 20 minutes. I've got a number of news apps. And if I don't watch the news, what I even prefer to do is read a news app. And I'll tell you, I'm in the US. The news app I tend to look at more than anything is BBC, because they're not quite as crazy left or right. Or USA Today isn't too bad. If you watch CNN or Fox, right, you think you live on a different planet.
Nightmare.
I mean, it's like, CNN's got to be a completely different planet, than Fox is a completely different universe. I mean, it's all different. But so I tend to like once a day, usually BBC. They're a little more rational.
Yeah, and I was watching, my wife was showing me this Canadian podcaster. She's very controversial by nature. That's what she's doing to gain her market. But she brought up a very good point. And the point she brought up was about how the news is supposed to be presented with objective facts. At the very least, present the facts, then tell us your opinion. But a lot of these broadcasters, as you're talking about, they've essentially failed us because they come on and they just state their opinion. And then their opinion gets passed along as fact without any type of declaration that it's not whatsoever. Right. So yeah, I mean, it's really important to be careful. Yeah, Janot's putting a little joke there. If it bleeds, it leads. Because yeah, I mean, the more I guess extravagant it is, the better the ratings are going to be, so that they can continue to feel validated and have self-worth. And we all need that at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not even just so much the news nowadays. It's more the social media that people will believe everything they read on Facebook, regardless of who puts it up. You've got these people in the middle of nowhere on YouTube. They're spouting all these news facts when none of it makes any sense at all.
Right.
Right. No, I agree. I'm very thankful for sites like Snopes and Fact Checker and things like that. And, I'll even be honest, I'll be the first to admit I have actually shared something, read it, thought it was from a credible news source, shared it, only to have someone in the comments disprove it as being true. Immediately take it down, because I don't want to perpetuate that type of cycle. But I do believe that we owe it to ourselves to have some type of responsibility with the information we're sharing. Which again is why I love stuff like this. We've got, proven track records in BNI history. We've got a lot of objective things, even if we don't necessarily align on all the things we say, we at least will always fall back to the practical facts, right? Okay, so we got about 20 minutes left on the call. I'm not going to drag calls on simply to drag them on. if anyone else would like to speak up and have a question, I welcome it. I mean, I could talk to Ivan all day. Trust me, there's a lot of things I could say, but I'd like to hear more from you, Ivan, but more especially, I'd like to hear from our attendees. So please speak up.
I got a question.
Hey, Ivan. Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
So I was reading an article on the CBC, which is very similar to the BBC, Ivan. It's the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And there's an article there I'm reading. It's comments that your lieutenant governor have made recently. Are you aware of these about why he wants to keep the economy running and go along with what Trump had said?
Lieutenant Governor of Texas?
Dan Patrick?
Yeah, the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So he's basically saying that grandparents and seniors should sacrifice themselves for the economy and not lock down and have the economy running.
Yeah.
What are your opinions on that?
I can give you an answer you won't like. BNI makes no comments about politics or religion.
I should know that with how much I listened. I forgot that from the things. Yeah, you avoid religious, politics. I'm sorry for asking that.
No, it's okay to ask. I mean, there's no dumb question. But what happens is when the founder of BNI starts spouting a political position, and trust me, I have them. What a lot of people don't realize is it's really tough for me. I have a bachelor's degree in political science. Mm-hmm. So I have strong opinions on politics. But when the founder of an organization starts giving his or her own position on politics, it becomes very divisive. Because half the people think, oh my God, yes, he's brilliant. And the other half go, he's an idiot. How could we belong to this organization? And so we take no position on political commentary.
No, I remember there was, after the most recent election, there was a podcast where you reiterated that. So I realize that now.
No worries.
Yeah, fastest way to divide a room.
Yes,
well, now, okay, but to be fair, now again, we're talking with a global organization with over 220,000 members, but something I firmly believe when you're looking at exercises, when you're just starting out, when you're a small business or even going to be a big business, do understand as you're researching and defining who your client avatar is, who your niche market is going to be, it is actually quite possible to use a political stance in a divisive way to find out who you want to do business with if it's relevant to the business you do, right?
If it's relevant, that's a choice you can make.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously for an organization like BNI or even what I do for a living, I mean, that's not something that factors into what we do. But when you get into some fields, yeah, it makes sense. Colin, again, bringing up, Colin, he makes one of the funniest jokes when it comes to this. He's like, if you're looking to serve Christians, you're not going to go to the synagogue. Right. And it's very true. You got to know where to find your audience. And that's just another tool you could use if it's relevant to be divisive. This is me attempting to just move away from the political conversation.
I don't mind the question.
No,
I've been answering that question for 35 years, so I'm good.
Yeah, that one's just, that was easy. You just knew exactly. It was really well practiced. So then Ivan, we've talked, let's move it back down to the individual BNI members. So we've both talked now about how it's important to take action, how it's important to have a plan, how it's important to make use of the time that we have today. What's the first thing you want people to do when they get off this call? What would you recommend? What's the first step?
I think one of the first things to do is to sit down and create a plan for two things. One is, what are you going to actually do over the next couple of weeks? If this lockdown is another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, what are you going to do right now? Other than, sit around in your sweatpants and watch the news, what are you going to do that's meaningful and actionable that will help you when this is all done? Create that plan. Then I would have a second plan. And that second plan is, what happens on day one when you get back to your office and get back to doing business outside of the home? You got to create those plans. You really have to think those things through, dialogue them with people, get your friends on Zoom and talk about what you're doing, what they're doing. Think this through. Think about how you're going to do these things. I'd also, for me, this is a work day. And so I have my schedule blocked off in 30-minute increments, between 30 minutes and an hour. In my calendar today, I've got a 9, a 10, a 10:30, 11. I've got a 1 No, I'm sorry, a 12, a 1:30, a 2:30, and a 3 o'clock meeting. Your day should look like that. If not that, it should be busy. It should be things that you're scheduling to do. One of the things I have blocked off is to record videos. Most of the others are phone calls, webinars, interviews, but one of them is block off an hour, record videos. I have specific videos that I need to do. So that should be your day. You should, and I like to color code my calendar. So I put stuff up on my calendar and I color code it based on the activity that I'm doing. If it's a certain color, I know I'm doing the things I should be doing. If it's a different color, it's the things I have to do. And so I can look at my calendar and know, am I working on the business or in the business right away? These are the kinds of actionable steps. Create a plan for what you're going to do right now. Create a plan for what you're going to do when you're let loose, and work your plan right now by scheduling your calendar, filling your calendar, and doing things. You should be doing, I think you were talking about meditation or you know, time for yourself. Schedule that right now. All these things you couldn't do before, do it now.
You know, I couldn't agree more. So I have absolutely nothing to add to that. Yeah, that was beautiful. So thank you so much. So with that, I will say thank you so much, Ivan, for your time. Do appreciate it. I will follow up with you afterwards. For those that did attend today, thank you so much. We are actually doing this daily support call every single day until further notice, just to give us a place to socialize, to network, to discuss, and to learn from various industry experts across many different fields. Ivan, of course, you're welcome to join if time permits. And we're going to just be doing this and evaluating as we go. So thank you, everybody, so much for
Can I
coming today.
just add one quick thing? I just sent a link to everybody. This is an article I wrote on 7 tips on working from home. And you might find that of value. Feel free to share it. Feel free to read it. Things to think about in working from home.
Perfect.
Thanks,
I
Marcus.
will add that to the YouTube video as well. So thank you, everybody. Have yourself
before we shut this all down and disappear.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. Don't be so fast to dismiss everybody. Ivan, I've been obviously watching you on Inner Circle. I see how busy you always are and how much you're always giving to everybody else. How are you and Beth doing right now on this?
Oh, we're doing great. Thank you for asking that, James. It was very nice. We're doing great. You know, I have spent most of my career traveling every other week for probably for the last 30 years. Out of the 35 years I've been on the road every other week. I have 2.3 million miles on one airline alone. So I got to tell you, this forced, you know, isolation or motivation, as you like to call Marcus, there's one element, you got to look at the positive. I'd rather not have this situation, but the positive for me is I get to be home for weeks. I have not been home for more than 4 weeks in 30 years.
Wow.
So yeah, this is kind of nice. So we're doing well. We've got some space, and we're empty nesters. So it's just my wife and I, and it's all good. And don't forget, I got that cellar. So
yes, that is true. And the kids are doing good though?
Yeah, the kids are doing well. You know, luckily, look, they pretty much have lost their jobs. But luckily they got parents that can give a safety net during this time. You know, one of the things, we created a trust for the family a number of years ago, and the trust opens up with these words. This trust is a safety net, not a hammock.
Mm.
You're never going to get monthly checks.
Yeah.
You know, it's here for you during crisis. And so, you know, they got a safety net. They'll be okay.
Good.
That's awesome.
Thanks for asking, James.
Yeah. So again, from all of us, all our love to you as well, to the family. Stay home, stay safe. And thank you again just for being here today. Everyone else, have yourselves a productive day. We hope you'll tune in tomorrow. I'll be adding that link and any other links any of the attendees would like me to share to the YouTube channel. And yeah, talk soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Have a great day, everybody.